Tom Mulcair, CTV News political commentator, former leader of the NDP, of course, joining us with his initial take on this. What did you make of what Justin Trudeau had to say?
Justin Trudeau says he accepts the report that says he broke the law. But then he says he won't apologize because what he did was in the public interest. How can the Prime Minister of Canada breaking the law be in the public interest? That's what doesn't work with the press conference we just heard. If Mr. Trudeau had come out foursquare and simply said, this happened, it's unacceptable, I take responsibility and I apologize, I think that 48 hours from now we would have moved on. But as Scott Reid just correctly said, that sort of entitlement and arrogance, the law doesn't apply to me, I'll start talking around this for 15 minutes and you'll all forget about it and go home. That's not what's going to happen here. Todd, you heard Mr. Trudeau say, as I just did, that when he decided that they would not give the information to the ethics commissioner, that the commissioner said he needed to do his report completely, that was also in the public interest because he was serving a higher purpose of cabinet secrecy. And he went so far as to say that what was being asked for by Mr. Dion was less important or non-important. Those were his exact words. What does that even mean? And who is he to decide that? That's the same thing as interfering in a prosecution decision. The person who's charged by Parliament with carrying out this investigation has said, in order to do my job, I need this information. The people who are under the authority of the Prime Minister are saying, you're not going to get it, we won't give it to you. And again, they say it's because they're serving a higher public interest. So what we take away from this is the following. We have the rule of law in Canada. We have our democratic institutions. We have a government that works because we respect the rule of law, separating the judicial, the executive, and the legislative, except when you're a Liberal. In that case, you get to decide what information you give to the person judging the case, in this case, the ethics commissioner, and then you get to tell the public this is all in your interest. At the same time, as he's admitting that the report is right and he takes responsibility, I love the line, the buck stops here, very old political line, but he's trying to say, I'm assuming responsibility here. Oh, but by the way, what I did was okay because I was worried about jobs. But as the report says, and as Mr. Trudeau's already said publicly, he was talking about his own riding. That's his personal interest. He was talking about the economic interests of the rich people who are invested in SNC-Lavalin and the big pension funds that are in there. So he's looking at extraneous considerations. And by the way, we did not need a report from Anne McClellan to say that they broke what's called the Shawcross Doctrine. They're talking to someone whose job it is, the Attorney General and the Director of Public Prosecutions, trying to put pressure on them to change their decision. But it's their decision to make under the law. That's what the rule of law is all about. So Mr. Trudeau has come out with a series of contradictory statements, hoping that he can sugarcoat the whole thing and move on to his next announcement with other Liberal mayors and candidates tomorrow. I don't think it's going to work. I think that this thing will drag on. Everybody's trying to say, oh, the election is so far away. But you know what? Scott Reid was right in his final point. It's a question of the image that it leaves in the public's mind, the taste that it leaves in their mouth, saying, hold on, somebody just said he broke the law, and now he's saying that he was doing it for us. That just doesn't wash.
Yeah, so let's dig deeper, if I can, the idea of the mixed messaging going on. So I accept responsibility, for what happened, and we've learned from this. On the other hand, justification going on as well. What's the strategy there, do you think?
I think it's chronic, and remember Donald Trump saying, well, when you're a star or a celebrity, you can get away with anything. To a certain extent, we have a prime minister who's so well known his whole life that he sort of acts like a celebrity. He has that sort of aura about him, and he's used to many people just writing the answers that he gives and saying, oh, it must not be that bad. He was thinking about the jobs. There's no real problem here. Move along, nothing to see. Hold on, this is a really serious matter. This is a prime minister and his office using all of the pressure that they could to bring that to bear on an attorney general and a director of public prosecutions. That's an independent institution that's supposed to be beyond political interference. And this is third world behavior. This is banana republic behavior, where you pick up the phone and start saying, well, I'm the clerk of the Privy Council. Prime Minister's not going to take no for an answer on this one. He wants this thing to be changed. Look, we don't know what the reasons were why the Director of Public Prosecutions said there's no way that a deferred prosecution agreement could be made for SNC-Lavalin. that part's not public, but we have to have confidence in the institution. It's like saying, you don't pick up a phone to call a judge. It's the exact same thing, Todd. You can't interfere in this stuff. And that's what happened here. And when that happens, it's serious. It's a really grave matter. And if Mr. Trudeau, again, had said, look, this is unacceptable, I apologize, but instead we got things like, oh, we didn't hit the right balance. Hello? We didn't hit the right balance when you're actually trying to bring pressure to bear on the Director of Public Prosecutions? That's not a question of the best balance. That's a question of interference, and you apologize for it. But since he won't, I don't think that Canadians can walk away from this exercise saying, well, maybe he's learned his lesson this time. Maybe he won't take free trips to a billionaire's island that he's not allowed to take and accept gifts and break the law with regard to ethics. I mean, that's what this is about. It's about breaking the law repeatedly. And it's a behavior where if you think you're going to get away with it or that people are going to forget about it and you can just waltz into the election, maybe he's right. Maybe it won't matter that much at the end of the day. And October 21st, he'll be proven right. But I think, based on my knowledge and experience of the Canadian political process, that we're more than likely to see this carry on, that people will see this as coloring their perception of Mr. Trudeau in his sense of liberal entitlement.